Hi everybody, I'm Kevin Long. Welcome to Innovation in Motion. I'm really excited for tonight. It's the first time a topic I can actually speak to and pick the brains of these mobile professionals, the mobile Labyrinth. Quick announcements before we get started. Special thanks to our sponsors, Crowd Compass, that does mobile apps for conferences and meetings. If anyone has a meeting or event coming up, we have a beautiful mobile app for you. Come talk to us. Technology Association of Oregon, everybody knows them or should know them. They do a lot of great events in Oregon, so make sure you reach out to them if you haven't done so already. And CorSource, if you have any technical long-term placement needs, CorSource is the company you should go to. So a couple announcements. If you're using Twitter, it's the hashtag InPDX. And if you're ever too lazy to make it all the way to the event in person, you could join the 100,000 people watching on live at livestream.com/Innovation in Motion. And last of all, quick first round of applause to Paul Collette, who got his PC up and going tonight so we could record this. Paul does a great job recording and streaming this out, so if anyone needs that, do talk to him about it. We have Bryan Fox, co-founder of Upstart Labs. Bryan, you want to raise your hand? Bryan's here. We're going to introduce them in a minute, but just a quick hello. Patrick Lightbody. Patrick, your title at New Relic, is it Senior Product Manager Extraordinaire?
I do product management stuff.
All right.
That's fine.
All right. He's a modest guy. Patrick's flipped some businesses in his time. He's now working for New Relic. It's going to be really interesting. And Andy Rosic. Andy?
That'd be me. Yeah.
Selfpubd, the marketing app guy. And we're going to dive into that in a bit. So quick icebreaker. We always like to do one quick icebreaker before we get going. If you answer this question, you get a secret prize inside of this Crowd Compass t-shirt. This is the wrapping. Okay, the question is, what year are the experts predicting that smartphones will finally outsell feature phones in the global market? What year? This year. Oh, what year? I don't hear a number. Oh, I don't even know who got that. I'm going to throw this out into the audience.
Green shirt right there.
Who got it? Green shirt guy?
Right there.
Spencer, you win every month. Come up here. Spencer. You like cheat or something. You read the news. Good job. You get the t-shirt. You got to show everybody your prize for winning. What is it? It's a mobile basketball hoop. Oh, good job, Spencer. Round of applause for Spencer, everybody. Good job. Smartphones are going to surpass feature phones this year. This is a great year, 2013. So speakers, I am going to turn this over to our expert mobile panelists tonight for the Mobile Labyrinth and have them do an introduction for themselves. What I'd like you guys to do, and I think each of you have a slide, is just who you are, what your company does, and just make sure people understand exactly what is your product. Okay, those three things. And I think we're going to start out here with Bryan, with the next slide.
Always start in the middle. My name is Bryan Fox. I'm a co-founder at Upstart Labs. And we do early stage investments in startups. And by investments, I mean a mix of equity and development and marketing and sales help for startups. So we do a lot of mobile and social as a service companies. And I've been doing web, social, mobile app development for the last dozen years or so. And we've done a mix of web, native, iOS, Android, and hybrid, everything in between.
How many companies do you have in your portfolio?
Oh, half a dozen, 6 to 8.
Half a dozen. So with anyone with an idea should come running to you because you guys are a startup incubator, or what level?
Like I said, early stage startups. So we talk to people who just have an idea, but we're kind of somewhere between that. I just have an idea, and I'm, getting my venture round of funding.
So hopefully, if people are making money, then they should talk to you.
That's a good way to do it. Yep.
That's a good way to do it. Okay. Jumping next here, Andy, do you want to talk a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah. So I'm Andy Rosic, the founder of Selfpubd. We are redefining publishing for the mobile game space. So essentially, we're providing almost like a Salesforce.com for game companies, where there's a whole suite of tools to run your actual business. Most game developers know coding really well, and they know graphics really well. and then that's kind of like a hard stop right there. And we come in and go, what about monetization, analytics, promotion, marketing, and the big one, discovery. And we just launched a discovery tool called Thumb Arcade. So thumbarcade.com, you can go there mobile, go there online, and you'll actually see our member game titles in there. And so it's at a huge start. We've been in the media all over the place. You can Scroogle that, whether that's Google, Bing it, whatever. You will find us. And so the idea is that indie developers need tools, and they really don't have any other options, right? You're either Googling it yourself, or you're signing with a big publisher and kind of giving away all your IP and your rights and your revenue, your brand. So we come in the middle and say, no, you're the publisher. That's how it works. But we're going to give you the tools to actually help you grow your business and become successful.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. And then Patrick, yourself and New Relic.
Sure. Well, I've been spending the last 10 years or so kind of in the testing space and the performance space. Did a couple startups and ended up at a company called Gomez. Some of you might have heard of them. They're now part of CompuWare. And along the way, spent a lot of time doing monitoring services, developing and product managing monitoring services for mobile apps, mobile web apps, mobile native apps. In my most recent job, I was working for a company called Newstar that not a lot of people have heard of, but also doing real device testing and looking at the performance characteristics of phones. These days, I work for a company called New Relic, which is officially a San Francisco-based company, but about half of it is up here. And you might have heard we raised $80 million just a few weeks ago.
Beers on Patrick after the meeting.
So we're having a lot of fun. It's growing really fast. And in that announcement, we did mention that we were going to use some of that money for doing some interesting things in mobile. My boss and the CEO would kill me if I gave it all away tonight, but we'll see how much I'll talk about that. Yeah, more beer. So yeah, that's what we're up to.
What was your last venture?
It was a company called Browser Mob, and it did cloud-based load testing, and that included some testing services that we had around simulating what happens when tons of mobile devices connect to your website. And there are definitely very different characteristics of mobile devices in terms of the impact on your server infrastructure. So it was a pretty interesting process.
Great. Well, thanks a lot. Well, let's dive into questions. I'm going to try and get through 3 different areas tonight. I want to talk about building, I want to talk about tracking, and I want to talk about marketing from a mobile perspective. And I want to try to leave more time than I've ever left for the audience. So I'm going to try to not talk so much tonight. So let's jump to the next slide. I worked on designing this all afternoon, this beautiful slide. So, thank you. Oh, thank you very much. Designers in the audience, I see. So, before we dive into what are your actual options, let's talk about what building decisions people should be thinking about when they're looking at going mobile, either with their site or having a combination of a mobile and an app. I threw a couple of questions up here that some of the panelists sent me over. But maybe we could just start out. Bryan, maybe if you want to start out, because you deal with a lot of different companies at different stages. What do you tell them are the things they need to think about before they start thinking about their mobile option?
Yeah, it's really hard to answer that and talk to everyone at the same time.
Don't screw it up.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
How many people here are developers? Okay, a minority. So this native versus web question comes up a lot, and I apologize if I'm going to oversimplify it, but I'll try to breeze through some of the points to think about. For starters, it's really 2 separate questions. One is how are people going to access your content or your product or whatever it is? Does it, am I accessing it through the App Store and App Store, or am I opening a browser and getting to it? And that sounds patently obvious, but that's a very different question than what technologies am I going to use to build my app or site. So that latter question is probably the more interesting one, and that's the one that people get stuck on more often. Honestly, if you've got a development team in-house, or you've got a development partner that you're working with, or a technical co-founder, then oftentimes you're going with what you know, and that's probably the right approach. If you've got a crackerjack team of web developers, then it may make sense to take a look at the web technologies and see what you can do with them. The canonical argument for native over web, or the typical one, is that the user experience is better with native. Facebook famously ditched their HTML5 app on iOS and replaced it with a native app. I think Bright Cove just did the same thing. They were doing sort of cross-platform HTML5 video players, and they've scrapped that in favor of building natively on each platform. And the argument is, well, I'm a big company, I've got sort of an endless budget, and I can go wherever I want, and I'm going to do a no compromises build on each platform, and I can do a better job of it. And oftentimes that is the case.
So that's going native, building on each platform, and a bigger budget. So what you're saying is native, if you're going to go with a native app, it's more expensive.
Not necessarily.
Oh!
So
Andy said it's more expensive. He told me it's 125% more expensive.
I was told there'd be no math.
I mean, Andy, tell me about that. Like, we had a chat and you talked about doing a HTML5 app in a native wrapper.
Sure.
Can you talk just a little bit about what that means compared to just an HTML5 app and why it's 125% cheaper and faster?
No matter what your math skills are, basically if you're developing native code, iOS is relatively, again, in the sense of mobile, is easy. You go to Android and it's an unmitigated disaster, right? I mean, there are so many phones, platforms, versions of the OS, forked versions of the OS. It just gets crazy. So it just adds to your cost to make sure, especially if you want to reach a really wide audience. You're saying, I'm going to try to hit everybody. Well, you're not, but even if you try to hit a lot of everybody, it just gets really expensive to know that your app is working right, how you want it, the look, the feel, the speed, all that stuff is happening on all those devices. So it becomes a major issue. So we launched our Thumb Arcade site as a website only initially for a couple reasons. One is we don't have to face all those issues because the web browsers, we know it's a more limited set. So even though there's
you're saying you launch it not as a web app, but as just a website.
It is a website.
So the top left
corner.
corner.
It looks like a website, but it is an app in the background.
Okay.
But it's not a wrapped app. It's not a native code app. So in other words, even if you've got the newest, Samsung Galaxy S3, if you've got an old, clunky old, Android device, if you've got the new iPhone 5, you've got the iPhone 3GS, it looks good on all those devices. And it was a lot easier to test on those and make sure it did than it was to go native code and go, it's going to look awesome across everything. Because as soon as it doesn't look awesome, guess what happens? They come to you, right? They go, this doesn't work, and the support emails start coming in. The crap emails from media places go, you sent this to me, and I've got this old phone, and I'm not going to write your story. So you come up with all these problems, going, how am I going to fix this? Well, you might be a small team, maybe one person, and how do you fix that problem, right? So in the web, at least you have some uniformity. It's not completely uniform, but it's better than going the native code app. But I'm not saying that's the best option, right? Because you don't have the distribution, you don't have like push alerts, you don't have the things you get within apps. So there's a lot of balancing questions you have to ask, but you have to ask the questions, right? What are you looking to do? What are you looking to spend? Who are you looking to reach?
Yeah.
And how are you going to actually hit all those people? So if you're not asking those questions, then you're probably just following some story you read recently and trying to launch an app or a website or whatever. But ask the questions. What are you looking to do? And you have to, once you boil that down, then you can start to make decisions about how you're going to program, what code, web, app.
Does New Relic have an app?
We do.
So New Relic, they have lots of money. They're trying to drive leads in for people. You're swimming in it. You swim through the front door of money, and you're trying to get more developers to use your software for testing, right? So there must be this big lead gen process and marketing machine and salespeople, And so I go to the website. Is your website responsive website where it shrinks down, or if I'm on my device, does it do a mobile website?
We are admittedly kind of bad about having a responsive design with our website. It pretty much renders the way it would on a desktop experience.
Patrick.
That'll change next week. And it'll look good. But we went through the same process building our own app, and we were going to do an HTML5 website or wrapped application. If you're not familiar with what that means, it just means it's a thin native program that then puts the web browser in the app. So it's still fairly easy to build. There's a lot of great toolkits to make that pretty easy to get rolling with. But ultimately, we decided the experience we wanted required a native app. Specifically, it's not out in the current version of the app, but we're going to be allowing this really cool pinch to zoom to get the performance history of your graphs and swipe around. And we just couldn't get the experience we wanted nailed with a web browser. I am sure in time that will catch up, but it just wasn't quite there. I do want to say, though...
Can you go to the next slide? I think this is what he's talking about. Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah, is that Frankenstein?
Native crushing HTML5?
But I want to say that it's not quite like that, because here's the thing, like, I use the native Facebook app personally, and it drives me crazy every time I come over to the couch and I see my wife on Safari on her phone at facebook.com, and she's using like this clunky version of it, but she doesn't mind. That's what she does. She's just so used to it. And in fact, what we've seen talking to some of our customers and seeing ourselves is that even when you have a native app, it's kind of like a tide to raise all boats. You actually start getting more web app mobile traffic as well, because people are responding to your application. Maybe there's functionality that's only in the web version because it's limited in the native one, and so they're starting to push the boundaries. They're clicking on email alerts. There's all sorts of reasons why people come to your site through the web experience too. So you kind of, in a way, have to commit to both.
Didn't Zuckerberg say the biggest mistake he made last year was betting too much in HTML5?
There might have been a few other ones.
Yeah, but you got to remember though, Facebook has like a couple users, and so because of that, there's a lot of data that they're updating constantly, like real-time data. So again, another decision to make: how much data are you pushing to each and every single user? And if it's not that like massive loads of photos and videos and content updates, then HTML5, a wrapped app, whatever, may work really well for you, but it doesn't work well for Facebook. So again, watch where you put the weight on headlines. For Facebook, it sucked, right? Because they have so much data. Think about the volumes of information they're pushing to how many phones all over the planet. Mm-hmm. So if when you get there, you can make that decision too. But until you get there, make more wise decisions about what makes sense for you. Can you code at an HTML level and maybe wrap it as an app or leave it as a website? And that makes more sense, more monetary sense for you, where you can grow your business and then reach the decision, do I need an app or not?
I'm not sure if that's why it failed. I think, user expectation is most of the problem that you encounter when you're talking about wrap apps. So correct me if I'm wrong, someone out there that has a phone in front of them, but I believe that Facebook gets more traffic from their mobile websites than they do from any of their native apps, either of their native apps. And like you said, people are perfectly happy to consume the content that way. I think that the reason the iOS wrapped app failed was probably because users on iOS expect really fast table view scrolling and all the other niceties that are sort of built into the platform and that actually make developing that kind of iOS app really easy. So I don't know if that's an argument against native development per se, but I do think if you are going to take the sort of hybrid approach where you're using web views in your app, I would suggest don't try to mimic UIKit. Don't try to pretend that you're a native app when you're not. Design a user interface that works well on its own. And I think probably a reasonable example of that is LinkedIn, who's one of the more well-known sort of HTML5 wrapped apps out there.
Okay. Well, let's jump to the next slide. I really thought you guys were going to solve it once and for all, native versus web, but this discussion, I think, is never going to end. So it's situational, is what I'm hearing, and talk to an expert. Okay. So make sure you call these three guys before you make your decision for your product. So tracking. Tracking. There is a super nerdy tracking guy in the house, Patrick Lightbody. Patrick, can you talk a little bit about tracking on the side of what entrepreneurs should be thinking about when they're building an app? And what I'd also like to do is have each panelist say what their favorite company is up here, and say what their least favorite company is up here. We'll see if we have a bunch of politicians on the panel or not.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, well, I'll just
And maybe just walk through just really briefly the sections here.
You know, I think analytics is probably the most interesting topic relevant to what we were just talking about. If you're going to do a website, just a web app, there's a lot of pretty standard ways to track the activity on that web app. You know, just throw Google Analytics up there and you can kind of not worry about it that much. But once you commit to those native interactions, or also more rich AJAX single-page web apps, they both kind of suffer from the same problem. The classic page view event goes away, and it really gets a lot more complicated if you want to try to measure engagement, intent, activity of your users. And it gets even tougher with native apps, where you can probably only ship it once a month or so because of the delivery model and going through an app store. You really have to get those analytics right the first time. You can't sort of iterate on it. So like at New Relic today, we use Mixpanel. We think it's a great tool. And we're tweaking things and sort of getting the right reports out of it on a daily basis. Obviously, for our native app, we had to be a lot more careful about what we were sending to it. So I'll just caution that. It's a big shift when we pulled away this standard concept of a page view. But anyway, analytics, Mixpanel and Kissmetrics are both pretty well-known startups that are in the space of tracking individual user events rather than classic page views. So it's up to you to instrument your application to send those events to these tools. But if you do, you can get some really great reporting out of it. You know, obviously Google's the big well-known web analytics company, and then Flurry's really done a lot of focusing on mobile specifically, but is you know, that's kind of their focus. I'm happy to go into the rest of these, but
maybe if you could just say in that section, and then I'm going to jump around here. Which one is, aside from Google, the cheapest? Like Flurry? Is it Flurry or Kissmetrics? Does anybody know? I see Flurry and I read the blog, so I would think, oh, I'll pick that one.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't know why, and I feel like Mixpanel is cool, but...
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these have a freemium model, but it's often priced at the volume of events you're sending to it. So I don't know their pricing off the top of my head. I know that we send a ton of traffic to Mixpanel, and we're not paying that much relative to the value we're getting out of it. But a lot of it depends on, you know, how important is it for you to know.
Right.
You know, we're in a B2B type of business where, you know, we're selling fairly large scale transactions. We need to know if people are walking away from our website or walking away from certain more expensive features. Maybe it's different if you're selling a 99-cent video game.
Right. Well, when you guys are building apps, you're doing device testing or crash reporting, are you using any of these tools?
Yeah.
Which ones are you using? Let's have both of you respond.
I can check off a few here, and when I say we, I guess I'll talk about any of the startups we're sort of working with, but Mixpanel, Google, Flurry, Crashlytics, TestFlight, AppThwack. I like what they're doing, but I haven't gotten a chance to actually use them yet.
AppThwack?
AppThwack.
AppThwack.
Portland-based startup,
microphone.
by
That's
the way.
right.
Yeah.
That's
I was wondering if you've actually used them.
Yeah.
And New Relic. Last but not
Who do you like better between New Relic and Web Page Test?
Different tools.
Do you want to add anything on maybe functionality, performance?
Well, so most of my comments tonight are going to be from the standpoint of the gaming world, because that's where I live right now. But I've been in mobile for 15 years. Yes, there was mobile back then. This is two-way pagers. But so I've been through, you know, big enterprise deployments, mobile payments, consumer, B2B, you name it. But just so you understand, like, my mindset is broader than the gaming side, but I'm going to answer from that. There's a lot of tools. We rolled out Thumb Arcade using OWA, Open Web Analytics. just because we could tie into that and deliver specific analytics to each of our member studios who wanted to see how their game was performing on our site. It was a lot easier than using Google, although Google's getting better. I've used Flurry in the past for when I was a game studio, so I've used them a bunch. There's a whole host of game-specific analytic companies and other types of, when you want to drill down to the level of this cohort group of type of players of this age and this demographic, why do they drop off at level 3? You know what I mean? So you can get really finite detail, but it costs, right? So you start with free and you work to how much money you're making and how important is that data, right? And you can get overwhelmed with data. You can be like, but like a 2% spike today, and and run around the kitchen, and you're like, oh wait, no one cares. so you got to be careful about data too. So there's a valuable set of data, and then there's the like overwhelming set of data. But yeah, so in terms of these, Test Flight I use all the time. I remember companies send me games and our team games that we can test and look at how they're performing and talk about monetization and how gameplay, physics, whatever, so we can actually interact very easily, even though iPhone makes it hard, Test Flight makes it easy. AppThwack is great on Android. Perfecto Mobile is great to get onto a live device, and especially if you're doing Android, test on live devices, please. Please. Like,
Dang it,
don't
that was a
ignore
question
that.
for later.
No, you have to. Trust me. Like, don't pretend like you tested on your one phone that you have and your, on your desk. Like, that doesn't work. It's a disaster waiting to happen. Test on Android, and just because Android numbers are big, they're big in China, they're big in India. Be careful about like where you put your value on, but like test on Android and make sure you know that the hottest devices that people actually have right now, not the ones that sit in the stores, they actually have right now, your stuff works on there. And so that's like AppThwack or Perfecto Mobile, others like let you do that, right? So make sure your stuff looks good. You spent all this time on it. Don't pretend it works on Android. The other ones I haven't used New Relic, sorry.
Is there anything on there we're missing? Brian, are you using any tools that you think that should be on there that people should know about when they're making their decision?
I don't see any obvious omissions.
It's perfect. It's a perfect slide.
There's one called Swerve. If you haven't used Swerve, it's A/B testing. Allows you to test kind of real time, different looks to your app essentially. So check out Swerve. It's like SWRVE. So they left one vowel in there. I don't know why. But check them out in terms of like A/B testing. That's a very interesting thing to be able to put something out and like try different variations of what you're doing and actually see the response real time. And on mobile, that's really hard, right? Because the App Store owns the customer, not you. So once you're okay with that detail, then you can go test and figure out like why is this working or why is it not working? Is it not working because I'm on page 627 on iTunes, or is it because I have the wrong icon?
You're in the warehouse.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you guys put out, you guys are launching some mobile next week, but do you have an app out right now?
We have an app to use our product. So developers, operations people could get push notifications when their website's misbehaving or their web apps are misbehaving. We have a lot of customers who use New Relic to monitor the back end of the web services that mobile apps are using. And like I said, to make sure I don't get killed, I will just say we have an exciting announcement next week in this space. So
that's a hint. It's a teaser.
You can use your imagination. But I will say, related to all of this, I think the biggest thing to remember is mobile is just a new and unique challenge because for the last 15 years, we've gotten really accustomed to having a very small number of places to deploy our code. Right, even the biggest web server farms out there, short of the really big ones, might be a few hundred web servers that you're pushing your code out to. Well, it's easy to update it, relatively speaking. We've got automated systems. You've got companies like Puppet Labs in here that make that really, really easy to get out there. You've got monitoring tools like New Relic and others. But now we're talking about pushing code to millions of devices that don't update very often, that don't have all the standard Linux and Unix tools out there with logging and all the things you'd love to have. and it's like you're completely shrouded in mystery in terms of what the hell is happening amongst your customers. And now you don't have all the analytics stuff that you had with web pages, so you don't even get the page views or what the refer was, because none of those concepts exist in native apps. So you just gotta be ready for that, because it is a pretty big shift if you've gotten really comfortable with how easy we had it in web apps. It isn't there.
The time and effort. So maybe let's jump to the next slide on marketing, and I want Andy to talk on this, but first I have a question for Bryan. Bryan, I wonder if you can give a case study of one of the companies that you're working with and what you've done to help them market their app. What are some of the things you've seen that have worked, and possibly some of the things you've seen that were just a failure?
Okay. So I'll take TapLister as an example.
What's the company?
TapLister.
Tap,
As in a beer tap.
okay. Ooh, I like the sound of this. What do they
So
do?
they are a local Portland company, obviously, here in Beervana, and they do a few things. I picked them because they have a mobile website and an iOS app. He's actually been around for a while, and the idea is you can get on there and find out what's on tap near you. So maps and lists of bars around you, and searching for specific beers in order to figure out what to drink, I guess, at any time of day. The second part of that is that there are digital beer boards being installed in bars like Easterburn over there. And so it's sort of this multi-pronged mobile and in situ and website approach. And what has worked well? A couple things, I guess. So for starters, he's got a great sales team. The founder came from Groupon, and he's out there just doing sort of old-fashioned, marketing and sales directly to bars.
So pounding the pavement.
Pounding the pavement, and
I
as silly as that sounds,
I wouldn't have thought you would have said that as the number one first marketing thing, but it is that old-fashioned still.
Well, the thing is, you build an app, and have it. A lot of people say, I want an app so that I can be in the App Store, because that's a great marketing tool. But I mean, the fact that you're sitting here indicates that you need to actually go out there and then market your marketing tool so that people know that you have it. Discoverability is just always, it's one of the fundamental problems of building an app or site. Getting the new and noteworthy in Apple's App Store is one way to help that.
Okay.
So there are other things that have helped.
What are a few others? So one is getting out there and talking to bars. What's another one?
Timing.
I can help him out on that.
You can help with that, right?
Yeah.
Good.
Have him call me.
Well, can we talk briefly about the new and noteworthy? I've got a friend of mine who's got a startup, and he got on that list, and it was like a huge difference for his startup.
Now, what's the list? Can you just be really clear about this?
When you go into, say, Apple's App Store, new and noteworthy, or for certain categories or whatever, I mean, they all have different layers of magnitude of effect on your business. But he was like piddling along, and then suddenly a rocket booster got attached to his business.
Did he pay for that?
No.
Luckily.
It was sort of and that's kind of the thing. I don't know a lot about it, but I'm interested if you guys have stories of how that typically works. It seems like they're sort of just like, I wouldn't say it's shady, but it's kind of like you got to know someone. And so there's a lot of sort of hustling in terms of getting to know people at the companies that manage the app stores to get that competitive edge.
Let's talk about that. Is that true? To get ranked in the App Store and get publicity, you buy a lot of ads somewhere else, you give someone good beers, like, can you guys answer that?
As far as I'm concerned, it's a black box.
It's a black box.
Yeah. No, I've seen inside the black box, and it's not pretty. I know the actual algorithm that Apple uses to rank the top 10 lists, the top 25 lists, or whatever the list is. Basically, it used to be, once you got in the top 10, top 25, you'd sit there for a week, right? So the goal was get in there, and then you just feed off that attention, right? So then they trimmed it down to a day. So 24 hours, still though, 24 hours was a massive spike, like you were talking about, massive spike in downloads and sales. Awesome, still, okay? Worthy of spending money to get there. And then they went, you know what? there's too much openness to this. People can just buy their way in and whatever. So now it's hourly. No joke. I see the shocked faces out there. Hourly. And it's not just how many downloads you have. It's a multiple pronged, I won't give you the exact numbers, but let's just say number of downloads is a big number, like a big chunk of it. But there's also your star rating. There's also about 3 or 4 other things. The actual revenue you bring in. Oh, wait, they make money off of you. That's right. And a few other things. But let's just say that if you spent a really good, ad buy on Tapjoy or whoever, like, I'm going to go buy users. It could be the shortest lived hour of your life. Right? You can get this like spike bit and drop right off the other side. And is that spike worth it, right? Was there enough volume for what you paid, especially when you're talking about best case, best plan scenarios like $1.50 per user? How much does your app cost? How much revenue do you earn from that user, right? So
right.
It's a funky system. So just to your point of like it's a black box, it kind of is. Apple makes it that way on purpose. We have an actual rep within Apple, and there's a long story behind that because they turned our account off accidentally.
Well, give me like a top 10 though.
But it's
what?
Old school business. It
right.
comes down to you got to build a fan base, right? No other time in history, I mean, you can look at the slides. Has the warehouse owned the customer?
So you're not going to go out, dude. You're not going to go out and spend a bunch of money and then get in this have your 1 hour slot, and then it's going to be the shortest live hour of your life. You're going to do some old school things. And what I'd actually like to hear is, because I'm about to leave here and go market my app, and you guys are just making me want to cry. So Brian's the only guy that gave me good advice about going to a bar, and I want to hear what are the things I can do to promote my app.
Well, and so that's what I meant. I actually wasn't talking about the top 10 list. I was talking about the new and noteworthy promotions, where Apple has a curated team that goes and handpicks certain apps that they will promote out there. And there's no algorithms behind that. It's, did you impress some guy that works at Apple enough to decide to put you up there? And he can change your business completely. And he probably is just paid an average salary, but he has so much control over the industry. And so, I don't know what what a lot of the tricks are other than what I've observed, which is you just kind of got to hustle and get to know people in the industry and make connections and work your way closer and closer to that very guarded secret inner circle, and then impress the hell out of them with your app.
Okay, that's close, but I need more specifics, you guys. Right now, I got nothing. I'm going to the bar to go tell some bartender about my app.
Go to the bar and have a drink. But while the new and noteworthy and the other categories are nice, it might as well go play Powerball. There's 150 million up for grabs right now, right? I mean, the odds of winning that versus getting the new and noteworthy, I mean, there's 1.5 million apps out there right now between Android and iTunes alone, not counting, the few on BlackBerry or Windows. But the point is, are you here because you want to play the lottery, or are you here because you want to build a business around an app or a site or whatever? So if you're building an app, that's great to get highlighted, but how you get highlighted is build a really amazing app, right? Stop worrying about how you're going to do it.
Build an amazing
build something
app.
that you go, this is really good, but it could be even better. This is awesome, but can my grandma use it and can my daughter use it? And does it really change the way someone interacts with some set of data? That will get noticed. That's great. But again, are you looking to get noticed for 1 day, 1 week? Is that really your business plan? Is that the end all be all? Because the spike, they all look the same. I'll go your direction. It goes up because you got noticed, and then it trails down. And the trail down can be fast, it can be slow, but it's typically, fairly dramatic. It looks just like this and back down, right? Mount Hood.
Andy, this chart is really interesting.
No, the chart is boring, but listen.
No. Let me ask you something.
Build your business around a good app, right?
Let me ask you. Only thing I got right now is I hired my UX and my UI guy. I spent tons of time on it. I got this beautiful design, right? I put everything I had into it, and so I got a great product. That's going to help me. and I'm going to go to the bar and talk to bartenders, like, I want 5 things. People are crying out here. They want 5 solid things they can go do to market their app.
And I don't know if it's the exact
Can you guys do that?
Yeah.
You better be answering this question, or
I'll
I'm
just
going to
say,
start crying in front of
answer.
everybody.
Maybe you say it's the first area that it's a great app, but I think specifically, what is the incentive for a user to come back and open it again? Returning users with any product is important, but it's really important when the real estate is right there. And I'm guessing, if you go back and look at the history of what you've opened in the last week or so, probably all the main ones are on your front screen. So what are you going to do to get that place there and encourage the user to come back on a regular basis?
Phone placement, like personal phone placement, like be thinking about making something that's not just beautiful, but that someone's going to want to have right on their screen.
You got to be solving a problem that makes people want to come back. If you're going to open it one time, even if you got the customer to pay for it, if he's not going to recommend any of his or her friends to go and do it as well, you're going to have that fall off again.
Can you guys see Bryan's face? He's like, I know exactly how to do this if they just let me talk. I can tell you the top 5 things. I've done it with so many companies. Bryan, go.
Okay, time's up.
Talk to me later. No, I got to agree with both these guys. I don't have any silver bullets, certainly, and maybe that's because you invited the wrong co-founder of Upstart Labs, and I'm not a marketing guy. But I see it basically the same as search engine optimization. You build the thing that users want to come back to again and again, and there are kind of little bells and whistles to sort of get some spikes in there, like you're talking about ad placements or whatever else. But if the product isn't there, if it isn't great, then it was all for naught.
This is like a marketer's nightmare.
No, listen.
You just have to have a good product.
The bottom line is everybody wants an easy answer, right? What can I do right this second that will just make me fat and happy for the rest of the time? But great, that's awesome. Again, Powerball, it's right around the corner. But if you're building something, then build something that matters. Build something that matters to more than just you. And if you make something, really, honestly, your mom wants to see it, and that's it. But make something that someone other than your mom wants to see, and then work at it. There is no easy answer. I think the answer, right? So go back, and why it's not. I used Grandpa in the slide is that. Stop getting lured in by the app mentality, right? Apple wants high-paying. I mean, who the heck would make the 3rd list top grossing unless they're just making tons of money off you, right? They crap money in the morning. So, stop putting all your eggs in one basket, which is like Apple's gonna make me rich. No, you can. That's the answer, right? So think about it. You can. Think about it as, how am I going to build a product that matters, that makes sense? And then how am I going to build a following that wants to hear that? Seth Godin and others, talk about marketing to, permission marketing, reaching out to people who want to hear your message. Focus on those. We grew as a mobile game studio with the special needs market. Totally accidental. But once all these parents of special needs kids loved our, first game, we latched onto that.
What'd you do?
We interacted with them. We answered every single person that made a statement on Facebook. We welcomed everyone that liked our page. We Twittered back to them. We spent late hours in the night to interact with people in the UK and random places, and they spread the word. But we had to put the effort in, and it took days and weeks and months and time, but it grew. Right, and we grew to 2.5 million users for our games. So, but it takes, it's not this instantaneous, right? We didn't get the magical Angry Birds. Oh wait, Angry Birds was their 54th game.
Is that true? That Angry Birds was their 54th game?
Absolutely true.
Wow. So you just had to build 54 games.
Not necessarily, because you look at Half Brick Studios, and Fruit Ninja was their 4th game. Right? But it takes time, right? You're refining your art. You're refining the process. The first song isn't the first hit, right? It's not a top 10 hit on music charts. So
all right, build a great product, get out there.
Yeah,
all right, we have a little bit of time left from the audience. I had to arm wrestle these guys to get the answer out.
I just want to say one quick thing.
Yeah.
If you're trying to build just a standalone app, I think that what we talked about is right. But if you have a website and you're trying to add an app onto it, there's some simple things you could do, like promote your app on the website, including using some of the native controls that are in the phones today, like you've probably seen when you scroll down, it can say, hey, you can get this app from the App Store. Use that. It's a simple meta tag, and it promotes your app. So it depends on what your problem is, too, but there's some really simple things. So go ahead.
Any questions from the audience? I see Jim's been holding his hand up for 15 minutes. And then we have a microphone here. This could be the first time ever the microphone doesn't go. Everyone jumps under their chair.
Great talk, guys. How do you see, specifically to the fact that this isn't your grandpa's app store, how do you see enterprise app stores coming in and affecting the market? Because I hear that in 2013, enterprise app stores are going to be all the rage.
Well, from my perspective, I used to be in the enterprise space. There is an enterprise iTunes store. They don't advertise it, they don't talk about it. It exists. So you can deploy your own apps to your own enterprise without anyone ever seeing that app because you don't want the public downloading your app. It's a tricky business, right? It has to be secure, it has to be trusted, which is why they don't advertise it, they don't talk about it. But if you're big enough, you're going to probably contact Apple, they'll recognize your brand name, and then it's going to happen. So they're there.
Anybody can
There's
launch
lots
in
of
the
them.
enterprise store, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, anybody can do that. You can launch in that. If
Like
you
if
need
you have
help
an app and
reaching
it's
out
private,
Apple,
you have a private app, it's maybe for your own company, internal, you don't want to put it out on the store. Nike probably does it, launches it, uses enterprise app.
yeah, absolutely.
You just have to get your whatever. I don't even know how you magically do it. You get some password or something.
Reach out to Apple. I mean, reach out to Android. Anybody. I mean, Google. They will respond, and you can definitely deal in the enterprise world. And if you've got a cool app, enterprise is a great space because they got money, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say, from a money standpoint, we're in the business of selling these enterprises tools, and Nike's got what, 80, 90,000 employees. They will gladly spend a ton more money than a lot of independent developers that have millions of users, right. And it's for obvious reasons. But there's a lot of money in there, despite the user base being much smaller.
Great. Next question. The guy that wins the prize every single week here at Innovation in Motion, Spencer.
It was about a year ago. That was Easter.
It was, actually. Okay. Say your name and company.
Oh, Spencer, and I'm a consultant, communications and web consultant. My question is, if I was someone who didn't have an idea for an app, but I thought, I want to make an app, and I want to pick a category that has the most need, or that is most likely to be successful. Is there like a category of app that you think might be lacking, or is a good one to go for?
That's interesting.
Government, healthcare.
What was that, Chuck?
What she said, electronic healthcare.
Electronic healthcare records.
Yeah, fart apps.
Fart apps. Interesting.
Totally.
Had discussions about that.
There's only 2,700 of them. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Brian?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a great question.
Whatever makes.
I don't have an app idea, but.
I mean, let's look at it from a different angle. Can you actually think? Would you attack it like that the App Store is lacking in X category? Can you do that first?
I'd go after an idea you're passionate about first and foremost.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's true. I would hate to do an electronic healthcare app. Okay. Next question. Wait. Grab the mic. Could you just say your name and company?
Hello, my name is Julie, and I have an e-publishing company since 2002, and I write mental health books. And I'm moving my books onto apps because I'm in a situation, I write about bipolar disorder. People will not talk to me on my Facebook. They will not get on my Twitter and talk to me. They will open an app, especially if they're teens. And so anything I do for teens is going to be on the phone from now on. And in terms of marketing these, because I've been doing it for so long, it's a mailing list. If you get a mailing list and constantly hit that mailing list with information and special offers and app updates, they'll come back. But
email marketing?
Email, just plain old email marketing.
Just buy email marketing lists?
Oh no, gosh no. Oh no. No.
Where are you saying getting these lists from?
If you have information on the web that people like, even with just straight Google, they will come to your site and you have your sign up for my newsletter, get a
Okay.
free app, do this.
Right.
It's through a shopping cart, for example, and in my business, selling ebooks, it's the only way to do it, is to create a big, Just because it's an app, it doesn't mean you can't do newsletters.
Right.
You still have a
Give
website.
them an offer that they want to give you.
Absolutely,
Old school business. Old school business.
Absolutely. Get a
Connect with
free
your
app.
customers.
Get a free app. If you review this or whatever. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I have an app, and I want to throw $3,000 to $5,000 at it in marketing, but I'm busy because I'm a superstar developer, coding away, and so I'm going to hire a PR company. Thumbs up or thumbs down? I see one thumbs down.
2 thumbs down.
Brian?
Sorry, PR guys.
I don't see a problem with it. I think you should outsource anything that isn't your core competency, and that is sort of tangential to your success, especially in the short term. Do anything that gets your product out there as quickly as possible and the best minimum viable product you can put together. And if that means, bringing on PR or anything else, to help get that out in front of people and let you start doing testing in front of real users, where by real users I mean strangers, not your family and friends, then go for it.
And you said 3 to 5.
You're the tiebreaker, dude. We had a yes
$3,000 to
and a no.
$5,000 on PR.
I have 3,000 to 5,000, and I'm thinking about hiring a PR company to promote my app, to blog about it, to talk on forums, to just spend all this time doing that.
How many millions did you spend on R&D?
I built it myself. I'm a superstar.
Yeah, I wouldn't spend that kind of money, even if it's small, unless it was a fraction of your total budget.
Okay.
If you're indie and that's meaningful money, I think there's better ways to put that money to use.
Okay.
Go get a half decent website that promotes your product.
Buy a book on guerrilla marketing. Read it, do it.
Yeah.
You can buy 1,000.
I mean, when you reach the peak that you can't handle, then hire a PR agency. But I'm not saying they're bad, but you can do most of it. If you've ever posted on Facebook or Twitter, you can do it. You just have to commit to it and do it wisely.
Yeah.
So buy a couple books.
How do you get on TechCrunch, though? How do you get them to cover you?
One caveat I will say, the example I gave of the guy who got on the New and Noteworthy, he actually did use a PR firm. So, but I agree there's a bit of a lottery element to that.
Okay, so you got to prove your ROI. Okay, next question from the audience or live stream. Oh, here we go. Can you say your name and company?
Sure. I'm Michael DeStefano from Hachidori Apps, and my question is pertaining to pre-launch. So pre-launch timing and the lead up to launching. What specific actions can you take? When should you reveal? How much details should you reveal? Like a month before, a week before? Should you gradually build up the amount of detail that you're revealing to potential customers? So just the pre-launch cycle. How do you plan that trajectory?
I can't speak a lot to building up the excitement, but I can say I've seen a lot of people forget how long it can take to get that first app approved. So don't wait until 2 days before your launch date to submit to Apple. Give yourself like a month or 6 weeks just to be safe.
Wow, 6 weeks?
If it's your first time?
Yeah. Can be.
Wow.
But also you want to control that timing, right? So in terms of revealing what you have, right? Everyone feels like if I tell the world what I'm making, then someone else is going to copy it, right? Someone else is already making your idea right now. So get over it, all right? It's going to come out. I mean, I had an idea that just launched today. Like, why don't you just stream music from YouTube as a music service? Because that's when I go to YouTube, is to hear a song, because it's free. And someone just did it, and they're the #1 app right now, today. And I was like, gosh, man, I should have done that. But that's what I'm saying. Like, don't worry about it. Just get your stuff out there. But don't wait, don't start too soon. But you also have to realize that media needs time. They need at least a week if you're going to reach out to folks, even If you don't know them, give them a little more time, week and a half, 2 weeks, to say, I'm launching on this day. Give them just a real highlight, here's my video that I've produced myself, or otherwise 20 seconds, don't do 5 minutes, please. Give them some, graphics they can use. They'll cover it, right? I mean, they want to highlight the indie developers. They want to highlight the cool stuff that someone's making. The big guys pay their bills, right? Facebook and everybody else pays the media bills. But they like writing about the single 2-person company, whatever, that made a cool app. So get it to them early. They are not going to hear your stuff the night before and publish it the next day. Never going to happen, all right? Unless you know that person and it's guaranteed. So definitely think way ahead. Think about your marketing plan before you start your app. Think about who you're going to talk to and start networking. If you can get to events and meet people, find the press room and just break in and talk to them.
Leave notes.
You know, yeah, exactly. Do whatever you got to do. Be scrappy. That's who you are, right? So that's what we did. I've done it many times. I still do it, and it works.
Do you
right?
guys, at Upstart Labs, do you guys have a PR person, like full-time on staff, or a community manager?
We do not. I mean, we do, marketing in-house, and we've partnered with PR firms in the past, just depending on the needs of the startup.
So you'll do set projects with the PR firm, like a piece at a time.
Yeah, just like pre-launch is a great example where they want to.
Here's 30 days, and what are the things you're going to do, and you know exactly what they're going to do. And
right. The PR company has their ties to the media, and they can help make that splash.
Okay. Cool. Any other questions from the audience? Mobile experts? We have one in the back nine. If you can get the mic to him. State your name and company, please.
Hi, my name is Brad. I'm in user experience design, kind of freelance. My question is, how much does going viral affect app markets? Like, do apps go viral, or is that more of just a YouTube video thing? Is that something you can plan for or aim for?
Planning for going viral. It's impossible. I'm going to answer it for you guys, right?
You can't plan for it, but you can try to build elements in that will play into it if you've built a great app. So, free email is great, right? Like Yahoo email had Yahoo email at the bottom, and so every time someone sent a message, someone else saw that's where it came from. So if you can build those elements into your game, if you have to invite someone through Facebook to play, they might not play, but if they do, you just expose another user. I mean, so there's a lot of things to think about in that, but if you can plan in as much potential virality as possible, it just ups your odds. But then again, you got to go back to doing the hard work, finding those sneezers, the people who are going to influence and spread the word, and then it's got virality built in, so it keeps going. But if it doesn't, you'll see it dive off, and then you got to go back to square one and go, all right, how do we fix it?
Yeah. There's very few apps that stay viral for a very long time.
Yeah.
Facebook, right, has half the world's population or some ungodly number of users. But then most of them are like Draw Something, if you remember that. Got bought for some bajillion dollars and then basically dropped off the face of the planet. I remember playing it. I was insane about it. Invited all my friends to it for like a good 3 days. And then that was it. And so, you got to figure out what your business is. Then there's Evernote. Evernote's doing fantastic. Not that viral. Dropbox is doing fantastic. Pretty viral. But, they're both business applications. So there's all sorts of different functions you can think about. There are formulas to look at virality. If you can model it out and say if you're 1.01 is all it takes to have these crazy upswings. Right. But usually the people I've seen that are obsessed about that do that.
So, okay, we got to wrap it up here. The last thing, I just want you guys, we're going to go down the row, and I'd like to end it with a little prediction about what is the biggest thing we're going to see in mobile in the next year. So I'll give you 12 months out, right? So we can go a little bit into next year. But what's the biggest thing we're going to see with mobile and how it's changing our lives, changing our businesses? Something that you're going to predict here and people are going to go, oh, he was right. And we'll start with Patrick, because Patrick's like, I know.
Well, obviously next week, New Relic's announcement is just going to...
Nice.
Totally.
Man, it might happen next week.
Actually, I think Firefox OS is going to be pretty cool. We actually have, Portland is home to quite a few Mozilla engineers, including one of the project managers for Firefox OS, and I got to learn a lot about it last week. They're targeting not the US at all, so we won't see much about it, but they're targeting places where people are getting their first smartphone ever, and they're focusing a lot on HTML5 and native web apps, and so it's going to expose the smartphone experience to like billions of people potentially if it does well, and it's a third player, and I think we need to keep Apple and Android on their feet, and so I think it could be the start of something really impressive.
That was a really good prediction. Bryan, you're up next. Good luck.
I would probably have made the same prediction the last couple of years, but I think starting to think beyond the devices that we're used to thinking about. There's no mobile web. You're building for devices that are out there, devices you can't imagine a year from now. Google Glass is the easiest example, but you're going to just see people consuming web content and shopping in places you can't imagine, consuming the web by talking to their car or their coffee maker. I am not a teapot. I mean, it's sort of a non-prediction because I'm saying I don't know what's coming next, but I think that the prediction is that we got to stop thinking about, I'm going to build it for a site that works on these 150 Android devices.
I like it. Okay. Andy, wrap it up.
Well, so we're already betting big on the browser being more important than it is now, and I think someone's going to step up with some JavaScript that makes sense, whether you call it HTML6, HTML5.5, whatever, where, again, iTunes, Google Play, they own the customer. In the browser, you own the customer. And I think you're going to start to see more of that where developers get savvy and go, yes, that's a good distribution platform, but I had one in the web, so why can't I use that and really reach a lot of people? So I think we're going to see some really cool JavaScript tools. You're going to see ways to interact that look like a native app, but it's all in your browser. And we've tried that with Thumb Arcade, and I think we've done well with the tools we have available, and we'll continue to look for more of those. But I say watch for that sort of JavaScript, jQuery, interesting stuff in the browser, and pay attention. Try it out. If you're a coder, then get in there and keep savvy with it, because you might be right on the leading edge.
I will. I'm going to get right in there.
All right. I want to see that. I'll hold you that.
So thanks, everyone, for coming tonight. This is wrapping up the Mobile Labyrinth at Innovation in Motion. A quick thanks again to Paul Collette for doing filming and live streaming. You can catch it free anytime. And one round of applause for our mobile experts for coming in and sharing the knowledge. Great. There's another prize for the most innovative person who can pick up their chair and put it right next to the wall right there on your way out. And everyone grabs some beers downstairs. We usually have about half the group hang out, so stop by and have a beer downstairs at the bar. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.